Where I think it really comes into an issue is when somebody knows they need help, they've identified the person that they need help from, and then they resist every aspect of it. And some people are so hyper focused on achievement, they lose balance, and that can actually impact achievement, is I think what you're saying. But really highly focused on achievement only can lead to a great achievement while feeling miserable outside of that. When you're doing something like creating goals in life, having a more rounded goal with true support around it to reach those goals, I think is the best success. Life is a matter of it's not always clean and simple. It can be a little messy, and having a Yoda near you to help guide you would be an amazing thing. But choosing that Yoda correctly is very important.
Hey folks, this is Sifu Slim coming to you live with another message and another discussion. This one is about coaching the uncoachable. And we've all been uncoachable in our lives. If anybody says they haven't, I don't believe them. And some of this has to do with fixed mindset versus open mindset. Some of this has to do with just the exhaustion of learning. You start out when you're a little person crawling around. That's your first big move, is crawling around. And then people are telling you stuff. Yes, no, come here, go there, eat this, not that. And it just keeps going. And along the way, some people develop more openness and some people don't. Someone asked my contact, Steve Abbey, to introduce himself, share one little thing about himself, and then share a first impression about what I just shared.
My name's Steve Abbey. I own a supplement company called SOS Nutrients, and that I'm very passionate about. And I am in the process of building the business where I really think it can help a lot of people. And so that's what I'm up to now.
So coaching the uncoachable and being open-minded versus closed-minded. Tell me what your thoughts are around that.
Well, I think a lot of people think they're open-minded and they're not. And I feel like I'm open-minded, but my guess is I'm not in certain cases. And it's really learning to tell in the areas that we're blocked, because there are times when we are going to make the conscious choice to not want to hear something. And it might be the perfect coaching, but we don't recognize it in that moment or don't want to hear it or whatever. But it's it's at different times and places. Where I think it really comes into an issue is when somebody knows they need help, they've identified the person that they need help from, and then they resist every aspect of it. So, but I think there are many forms of being uncoachable.
Do you have the ability to click on the video that I sent you? We can watch this YouTube short, the one that ends in a W.
Man, when people aren't coachable, athletes or just people in general, they're not open to feedback. A lot of it just comes back to what we talk about, fixed mindset, right? A fixed mindset leads to a desire to look smart and therefore a tendency to ignore useful feedback, even if it's negative, even if it's attacking them, because they don't learn from criticism. It threatens their sense of self. And that's why a lot of these people too, they feel threatened by the success of others. They feel threatened by the success of others as opposed to finding lessons and inspiration in it from the success of others, because they see it as an attack on themselves. It's all about, you got what you got, your abilities are fixed, and how do you go prove that you're really good and smart and all these things, as opposed to going and wanting to learn and not caring if you don't look smart or talented or whatever. You're just looking to grow, which ultimately leads to way higher levels of achievement and a greater sense of free will.
So higher levels of achievement is one thing he talks about. So he's a young person, kind of a go-go person. I would imagine he's a very busy person. So a lot of people talk about achievement. I talk a lot about human development and as the overriding called title. You know, balance is even higher than that. Lifestyle is even higher than that. So we started with lifestyle, moved down to a balanced lifestyle. So there's just a different, like if you were to hang something on a tree, the tree is balance, and then under there you have different hangers, and the first hanger is the large hanger, that would be balance, and then under that achievement would be another hanger, and and then many other things would be alongside of that. So share with me if you understand what I'm saying about some people overemphasize achievement, and I think lifestyle and then balance should be the overwhelming goal, vision above that, and then achievement is part of that, so that we're balanced humans first, but achievement is part of something that's in our goal framework.
Well, I think everybody puts the value where they put their value, and some people are so hyper focused on achievement, they lose balance, and that can actually impact achievement, is I think what you're saying. But really highly focused on achievement only can lead to a great achievement while feeling miserable outside of that, and especially having a postpartum, like if somebody's trying to achieve something for let's say a tournament or something like that, where there's a goal and they have like almost a postpartum depression on the other side. So from a balance of life, it's not necessarily the best way from my perspective. It's definitely not where I'm at, even though I want to make achievements. But to me, balance is by far the most important, and really taking into account, almost like, what is it, Bhutan, where they have gross domestic happiness. If they try and balance everything to create that. And when you're doing something like creating goals in life, having a more rounded goal with true support around it to reach those goals, I think is the best success.
Right, now we've got another link below. It says YouTube and it ends in MGE. So let's click on that one and we'll watch that.
Do you have anybody that you've ever coached that was uncoachable?
Yeah, people that think that they don't need help and that they're coming to my seminar because they just want to check me out, or their friend said whatever, or hey bro, what up Cosmo, big fan of your show, man. So yeah, man, I live in Dubai, I got a couple they start talking to me about how much money they got and all that. By the way, brother, I'm doing this for my roommate, you know. Got another condo in London, you know what I mean? We got a rooftop and condo in London, you can come out and visit. And I'm like, brother, what do you want to learn? He's like, nah, I don't want to learn anything. It's from my roommate. So those people.
Oh my God.
The ego. And most of them are like club promoters that they'll come to me, they'll pay me the money, and then they'll be like, nah, it's not for me, bro. You know how I get down. And I'm like, actually, I don't know how you get down, because any girl that you get, they're always at your table. You always have to do so many favors for them, and then they'll get drunk and maybe have a one-night stand with you. Like, you don't have the cojones to go to Santa Monica Pier and just walk up to strangers.
Thank you. So we have these people that are fixated on some sort of achievement, some sort of control, some sort of influence, some sort of ownership of something. And then the people they interact with might also be in that short-term impulsive thinking, not thinking long-term, like our grandparents and our forebears before them, where they were thinking, I need somebody with whom I can communicate, collaborate, raise a family with, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, and for better, for worse, all these types of things. So we have this relationship, whether we live 20 years together or 70 years together, I need to find my other half and collaborate with them and look out for them and share life with them. And it's a deeper thing. And survival, to me, is a very deep thing. If you get to thriving more than just occasionally thriving, that's spectacular. But most of life is repetitive. Most of life is survival oriented. Most of life is, or a significant part is, dealing with some sort of a catastrophe that comes up or a big problem like the crop failure, like a sickness of somebody, like your barn burns down, what have you. I mean, the history of the world, of course, collaborating is so important because these big events, whether it's weather-based, calamity-based, invasion-based, health-based, something always rears its angry head, and we as a tribe, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, mother, father, we all collaborate, and if we're smart humans, and we adapt to that situation and we handle that situation. Over to Steve Abbey for his thoughts.
Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about two different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they're wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com, and when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes.
You know, I have so many thoughts, I don't even know which direction to go in. I mean, bottom line is, we all put value on different things and at different times in our life. And, you know, what you talked about earlier in terms of balance is something that I would say I haven't been focused on, but it's clearly, when I think about it logically, is the thing that I want to have in my life. You know, at this moment in time. There are other times when I was more like balance wasn't the most important thing. It was getting ahead, or it was meeting the right girl or whatever. And a lot of times those have been false prophets, right? So I finally met the girl I thought was the girl of my dreams, and it didn't turn out that way, and I left devastated or whatever. So you know, life is a matter of you know, it's not always clean and simple. It can be a little messy, and having a Yoda near you to help guide you would be an amazing thing. But choosing that Yoda correctly is very important.
So I wasn't planning on going here in this conversation, but since you mentioned that, I will share my thoughts on Yoda. It's who I'm supposed to be. I am supposed to be the Sifu Yoda type guy. It's not an ego thing. It's what my default setting is. I care, I'm empathetic, and I see the long term. Whereas a lot of people see, oh, there's a fungus on the leaf of my garden. I see the long term. And so I'm not just focused on that one little fungus issue in the garden. I'm looking at 10 years, 20 years. I'm looking from age 20 to age 80. And that's something that I was born with. It's just how I see the world. So when there is a catastrophe right now, I'm not getting overwhelmed. I hope my goal is to not get overwhelmed by that, to deal with it the best I can, because there's a long-term goal. And if my fight, flight, and freeze mechanism is repeatedly out of balance and being torn, then I'm not going to be very functional and adept at helping people and helping myself get through this, what I consider a pretty long journey of life, especially if you have wellness in mind, body, and spirit. It can be a very long journey.
Absolutely.
So here's an example. I have a friend right now going through a crisis, and I've known this friend since 2012, and you know, I've evolved quite a bit from that point, and I'm in a really good zone right now, and he's not. And his point of view is, because we're friends, you're going to accept me as how I am. Okay, so that's one way I think is a common way for people to look at it. Family members will always love you, always take you in. Friends, always look out for friends. But when you are a Sifu guru master and you believe that your energy and your time has limitations, and that's one of the realities of balance, if you realize that and you know what your limits are, and like when I go swimming in the ocean, I usually come in when I still have 20% left in the tanks. That way, if there's some big waves I'm fighting through to get back or a riptide or something, I'll have that extra 20% to get back in. If they're really big swell, then I'll come back in it with 40% left in my tanks. And that I think is a smart realization. So my realization with him, and I haven't shared this with him yet, but we've done a few Google Docs back and forth dealing with the current crisis he's going through, is that I will accept you no matter what, yes. But will I spend time with you and help you no matter what? And that's the thing that I'm going to answer no. If you are not human, developing as a human, and you keep making the same mistakes, like an alcoholic keeps winding up on your front lawn, peeing and vomiting and knocking on the door and knocking on the window, will you keep allowing that to happen? And my answer is a sane person does not. A sane person sets up boundaries, helps that person, but if they keep, causing problems, sociopathic behavior, addictive behavior, whatever the case, then no, you don't, and you file a restraining order on that person if they keep that up. If you've taken them to the classes, you've gotten them a therapy, you've sat with them, and they're sponsored AA, whatever. If they keep falling off the wagon, whether they're family, friend, or neighbor, whatever, at some point, for your own sanity and your own time, you will say no. And that's my opinion on this person. Since I'm helping and I'm the guru Sifu with a long-term plan, if you don't listen to it and you keep going back to the same mistakes, I accept you over there, but I'm not going to accept you next to me to waste my time with those proclivities and that negativity. Over to Steve for his thoughts.
I think that's a very smart idea, is you have to have boundaries. If somebody really wants to be accepted, no matter what they do, get a dog, because dogs usually will accept you, no matter what however the dysfunctional you are or whatever. But I would like to choose to have my friends be fairly functional. It doesn't mean that we're not going to go through hard times and, we're going to slip on a banana. But if we're consistently bringing chaos into our life, that's something that needs to be dealt with. And if a friend of mine is bringing chaos and drama into my life repeatedly, I'm going to step out of that relationship, even though I might love the person. There's only so much that I can do. And I just, I don't want to do that. So I agree with you, and I will accept them for where they are, and I will choose to step out of it. And I've been that person where I was choosing poorly and creating drama in my own life, and people had to create boundaries with me. I didn't enjoy it, but it was a learning experience. And sometimes I think that's the biggest gift you can give somebody, is to have a real honest conversation and set boundaries.
Last thing, Steve, ability to say, I'm sorry, I was mistaken, I was wrong, please forgive me. What is so hard about doing that? And what do you think happened along the way in at least the Western world? I haven't studied this, the incidence of this inability in other parts of the world, but in the Western world, it's very hard for people most people to do the I'm sorry, I was mistaken, I was wrong, please forgive me. What's all that about? Is that a fear-based thing? Is that a weakness thing? What's going on with that?
Well, I don't have a shingle on my doorstep, but if I were to guess, that is an ego thing. And I feel like they are, if they don't acknowledge it, then they can just kind of cover it up by talking about something else real quickly. And let's say somebody is late and they just immediately, oh, hey, great to see you and everything, even though there's an awkwardness, they hope they can just get it because it almost acknowledges them, and they probably feel a little bit of shame and vulnerability or whatever, and they'd rather like come at it from a stronger position. And a lot of times they get away with it because it's awkward to confront people and everything like that. I know I've had my own issues with that. So in terms of confronting people, because I try and really be on time on everything in any event. So I believe that is an ego thing, and they hope that they can just skim by it rather than addressing it and cleanly dealing with it. And unfortunately, when somebody does not deal with it, it undermines a relationship. It puts the onus on the other person to call it out, which is a thing which is not always easy for everybody. And then the other thing that it does is it's like if the person doesn't bring it up, then it starts building up, and they might just start distancing themselves as opposed to saying something. And even saying something, it's kind of it's draining. So they're creating a situation with, if they don't acknowledge it and say they're sorry and own it, and in a true, honest way, then they are creating a divot in their relationship.
Got it. We'll end it there. Steve Abbey from Santa Barbara and Sifu Slim in South Florida right now. Please like and subscribe, and we hope to hear from some of your comments down below, your questions, these types of things. Please be respectful, and we will do our best to answer those, and we will be back with you again in a future video. Big mahalo, big aloha, and we'll talk to you soon.